7 miraculous signs that someone close is an unexpected enemy revealed by God's sacred plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the heart of Israel trembled as an unexpected truth came to light. David, once a humble shepherd, had become a champion, slaying the monumental giant Goliath and bringing freedom from the oppressive Philistine threat. However, the victory that resonated through the valleys of Israel was soon overshadowed by the rising envy of King Saul. The court of Saul was a place where melodies lingered and sorrows were soothed, as David played his harp with skillful hands, drawing out praises of Yahweh. Yet, it was in this very sanctuary where the shadow of discord began to weave itself into the fabric of their once friendly bond. As the people sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands," a spark ignited in Saul's heart, turning admiration into a dark ember of envy. One fateful day, amidst the echoes of David's enchanting music, Saul erupted in rage. Seizing a javelin, he hurled it toward David, narrowly missing the young man who had served him with loyalty and courage. In that fleeting moment, the trust that had once flourished lay in ruins. David fled, confusion coursing through his veins, and sought refuge at Nob with Ahimelech, the priest. Shaking, yet resolute, David poured out his heart to Ahimelech. "The king seeks to take my life," he confessed, revealing the deep betrayal from the one he had served. Ahimelech, moved by his plight, offered David the sacred bread and Goliath's sword, artifacts of past victories and hope for what was to come. How could a loyal warrior find himself hunted by a king he had trusted? As clouds descended upon David's spirit that night, he sought understanding from the Lord. "Why, O Lord, does the heart of one so close now seek my destruction?" he cried beneath the vast sky, the stars whispering silence in reply. Meanwhile, Saul's heart grew harder, driven by the poison of envy. His throne threatened thusly, lashing forth with intentions of malice. Yet, within the whirlwind, David found an anchor in Jonathan, Saul's son and his steadfast friend. Jonathan sought David in secret, binding their hearts with a covenant of friendship amidst danger. "Beware, my brother," he whispered, delivering news of Saul's wicked intentions as the weight of uncertainty hung heavy over them. Together, they crafted a plan. Jonathan would uncover the truth of his father's heart. In the depths of their strategizing, David cried out for clarity from God. Had he truly been anointed to lead, or was this ordeal a sign of rejection? Each passing hour spent in seclusion was steeped in desperate prayers, their fervor rising like incense before the Lord. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the shadows deepened around him, David remained resolute, holding fast to the promise that burned within. God's faithfulness would not falter. Meanwhile, unknown to them, Saul's heart hardened further, and meshed in the whispers of envy. Little did either of them know that the unfolding struggle would forge an intricate web of trials and decisions, paving the way for Israel's divine destiny. As night enveloped the land, David's steadfast heart echoed the cry of his faith, awaiting the revelation of God's greater plan. What now, Almighty God? Where is the resolution to this turmoil? The storm gathered, and the stage was set for the clash between the anointed shepherd and the betrayed king, a confrontation that would reshape them both forever. As the dawn broke upon the horizon, sending rays of light cascading over the hills of Judah, David remained in a state of fervent prayer, wrestling with the turmoil within. His heart was heavy with the burden of betrayal and uncertainty. "O God," he lamented, "why dost thou allow shadows to pursue me? Am I to flee forever from the face of my own king?" In that distress, David reflected upon the prophetic anointing bestowed by the prophet Samuel, and he clung to the promise, whispering, "Your anointed shall not be forsaken." With renewed vigor, David resolved to trust in the Lord's providence, for the whispers of despair were but clouds in the light of God's everlasting truth. Meanwhile, far away in the opulent halls of Gibeah, King Saul's spirit was consumed by rage and paranoia. Night after night, sleep eluded him as the torment of his decisions gnawed at his conscience. The javelin incident throbbed in his mind like a festering wound, pushing him deeper into darkness. He convened his advisers, demanding fervently, "Tell me, where lies David? I shall crush this threat to my kingdom." Fear crept into the hearts of those surrounding him as they beheld the madness in Saul's eyes. His once noble stature had become distorted, enslaved to the chains of jealousy. The elders sought to calm him, yet Saul's wrath surged unchecked, and he proclaimed, "The hand of Jonathan shall be cast away from me if he continues to protect this traitor." Unbeknownst to Saul, every word he uttered was etched in the ears of Jonathan, who stood steadfastly torn between loyalty to his father and love for his friend. "O father," Jonathan implored, "do you not see the glory that David has brought to Israel? Surely, his heart is pure." Yet Saul, blinded by fury, could not hear his son's cries. "Enough!" he bellowed, silencing Jonathan's protests. "It is treachery to stand with him. I will rid myself of David, lest he rise against me." And so, the decree against David was sealed in the heavy silence that followed, as the walls of the palace grew ever more suffocating for both father and son. Jonathan, stricken by despair, resolved to secretly aid David. He hastened into the wilderness, eager to impart news of Saul's treachery. The bond between them hung by a thread, yet it burned ever brighter, ignited by sacrifice and fierce loyalty. "David!" Jonathan called, spotting his friend amid the scraggly wilderness. "I have come to warn you. My father seeks your life." Staring into Jonathan's eyes, David felt a surge of hope. "What is to be done?" he asked earnestly, desperation woven into his voice. Jonathan replied, "I will speak to my father, and I shall return to you with the truth." The two men embraced tightly, a profound silence encasing their hearts, laden with the weight of divine purpose. Amidst the peril, David knew that God's plan was unfolding a celestial tapestry where hope could still bloom. In the dark recesses of the forest, David knelt once more, offering prayers for deliverance. The great uncertainty of what lay ahead cast shadows over his soul, but as he lingered in prayer, the heavens echoed back the assurance of God's faithfulness. "Trust in me," a soft whisper seemed to rise from the depths of his spirit, illuminating his heart with strength. He could sense that although conflict was imminent, resolution was drawing closer. God's hand was moving unbeknownst to them, orchestrating a destiny far greater than any human scheme. As the sun dipped below the horizon, shrouding the land in deepening twilight, the stage was set for the unfolding of divine purpose. A confrontation formed in the crucible of betrayal, friendship, and the unwavering covenant of God. What would the Lord reveal in the coming days, as enemies loomed and friendships faced the test of fire? Only the heart of the Almighty knew the answer, and David awaited the moment when the true plan would be unveiled. In the days that followed, David wandered in the wilderness of Ziph, a desolate land echoed with the whispers of his heart. He sought refuge in the crags and caves, his spirit wavering between hope and fear. "O Lord," he cried softly to the heavens, "how long shall I dwell in this valley of despair? Do thou not see the peril that surrounds me?" Yet in his solitude, David sang praises unto God. "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" Psalm 27 verse 1, the very air around him seemed to thrum with the cadence of his trust, and the promise of deliverance stirred anew within him. In Gibeah, King Saul's obsession over David's fate intensified. "Bring me information," he commanded his men, his voice a low growl steeped in desperation. "We must find this son of Jesse. His presence is a thorn in my flesh, a curse upon my throne." His advisers bowed in fearful compliance, yet a shudder ran through them, for they knew not when the king's touch would turn against them. Meanwhile, Jonathan returned to David under the cover of darkness, his countenance grave yet suffused with courage. "David," he whispered, drawing near. "My father's heart is vile, and he is determined to forsake reason. He plans to hunt you down with all the fury of a lion. But I have spoken to him, I persuaded him to spare your life, if only for a moment." David's eyes widened, a flicker of hope alighting within him. What shall we do? He replied, urgency lacing his words, yearning for a plan that would secure their safety. Jonathan's gaze fell to the ground, heavy with the weight of impending dread. We must devise a means to thwart him. I will present a test to my father. If he softens, all may yet be well, but if he is hardened, we know that the end is near. They clasped arms in a bond woven tighter by the trials ahead. May the Lord be with you, David uttered, and may he make your way clear. As days passed, the woods sang of tension, each rustle of leaves a herald of uncertainty. David and Jonathan agreed upon a signal. 3 arrows would be shot from Jonathan's bow, the first for David to flee, the second for safety, and the last for hope if all should go awry. In preparation, they lingered long in secret prayer, calling upon the God of hosts to guide their steps. Then, on the appointed day, Jonathan dined with his father, his plate filled with the delicacies of a king, but his heart was heavy with the burden of deceit. Saul, sharp-eyed and keen, regarded his son. Why dost thou not bring the man to my table? Yonder, David, who is naught but a traitor. He pierced Jonathan with his glare, demanding obedience. Father, Jonathan replied, his voice steady as a sword, David has served you well in battle. Is there no merit in his courage? But the rage within Saul ignited, and in a fit of fury, he hurled a javelin towards his son. Thou art a fool. Choose, Jonathan. It is he or me. Jonathan fled, his heart shattered by the sickening reality of his father's madness. The signal had been made clear. Under the cover of night, he raced to the appointed place, arrows poised. David, he called as he arrived, the first arrow flies away. You must heed my warning. Flee as the wind. At that moment, a great sorrow enveloped them, but beneath it, a glimmer of faith ignited. David, heart full of anguish yet buoyed by Jonathan's loyalty, turned to leave, uncertainty echoing in his steps. As he vanished into the depths of the wilderness, the Spirit of God whispered over the hills of Judah. Each step paved with trust, he understood that the battle was not only against flesh but against principalities of evil. What greater test awaited the Anointed One of Israel? For little did David know, within the shadows of his flight lay the seeds of a redemption God would weave through the tapestry of his trials. The paths of man and the paths of God would soon collide in an unexpected revelation, one that would echo throughout generations, sealing their fates with divine purpose. Would David's lineage fulfill the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Only time and the Almighty held the answers to these unfolding mysteries. As dawn broke over the wilderness, a stillness enveloped the land, yet within David's heart, turmoil raged. He cast his eyes upon the vast expanse before him, the weight of his calling heavy upon his shoulders. O Lord, my soul longs for your presence, he lamented, as a deer thirsts for flowing streams. Psalm 42 verse 1, Yet amid his recall of the wondrous deeds of God, the spectre of despair beckoned. In Gibeah, the fire within Saul grew ever fiercer. Let not the son of Jesse escape my grasp. He roared, madness coiling about his mind. His advisers stood frozen, sensing the volatility of their king. Shall we seek after this man, my lord? One of them ventured cautiously, hope flickering in his words. Seek him as you would any predator. Saul bellowed, madness sharpening his voice like a knife. He shall not consume my throne. Meanwhile, David, miles away, hid amongst the rocks, rehearsing the words of his heart. I shall not be afraid of tens of thousands of people who have set themselves against me. Psalm 3 verse 6, each word formed a lance against his fear. Yet, even as he fortified his spirit with prayer, a cloud of betrayal darkened his horizon. Days passed in haunting silence until the sun draped itself in the hues of twilight. As night fell, David's grief turned inward, every shadow reminding him of the heartache of losing his dearest friend. In that moment, a revelation came upon him. Could I trust anyone beyond Jonathan? In the depths of his contemplation, a rustling sound reached his ear, a herald of unwelcome news. A figure emerged from the thickets, weary yet resolute. It was an Amalekite, breathless with urgency. David, I bring tidings from Gibeah. I have seen the wrath of King Saul escalate. What news do you bear? David demanded, eyes narrowing. The Amalekite, sensing the gravity of his words, leaned forward. Saul has sought the counsel of sorcerers, seeking answers from dark places. They whisper of your downfall, and he has vowed to gather all Israel to annihilate the threat you pose. The weight of this report crashed down upon David like a mighty wave. His heart raced, but from his lips came words of courage. The Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. Psalm 9 verse 9, his mind whirled at the thought of the lengths to which Saul would go, all because of the envy that darkened his heart. That I in this hour, a resolve strengthened within David. He would not only seek safety but would petition the Lord for wisdom to encounter the wretched schemes. He called upon his small band of loyal followers, whose loyalty mirrored Jonathan's. Prepare yourselves trap and ambush, for though we walk through the valley, I will fear no evil, he intoned with holy fervor. They gathered around him, a slender hope knitted in their hearts. As the thread of fate wove tighter, Jonathan remained a flickering flame of faith in tumultuous shadows. Deep within the palace, he contemplated the unfolding terror of his father's madness. I must act, I must warn David. He murmured, his heart resolute. May the Lord bring me a sign, for I must not betray my closest friend. Thus, the night deepened, the landscape a stage for the unfolding drama. David and Jonathan, two souls tied by covenant, stood on the precipice of destiny. Unknown to them, the very roots of betrayal festered close. But as the dawn light began to stretch its fingers over the hills, David turned his gaze to the heavens, waiting for guidance. Deliver me, O Lord, he prayed, for you are my fortress. Within the silence around him, a divine interplay began, one that would reveal the hidden treachery of hearts and the triumphant thread of God's grand design to yet come. For even now, amidst brewing storms, God orchestrated the safety of his anointed, and beneath the surface, a greater unveiling loomed on the horizon, a revelation that would reshape not just the fate of kings, but the course of all generations. What would be the ultimate purpose hidden in these trials? God alone knew the conclusion awaiting his faithful servant. As the first light of dawn crept over the hills, David's heart pulsed with both dread and determination. He had sought the Lord through the shadows, and yet still, the threat of Saul remained like a dark cloud, a chilling reminder that betrayal lurked close. What shall I do, O Lord? He whispered, turning his eyes toward the heavens, yearning for divine counsel amidst his tumult. Meanwhile, in the halls of Gibeah, Saul's fury reached new heights as he sulked upon his throne, tormented by whispers of David's growing influence. Bring to me the ephod, he commanded, his tone laden with desperation. It was an inauspicious moment, one where the veil between the sacred and the profane grew thin. The priest approached, trembling under the weight of the king's treachery. What would you ask of the Lord? He murmured, fearful of stirring the wrath of a king consumed by jealousy. Shall I pursue after David? Shall I overtake him? Saul demanded, his eyes wild with obsession. The priest nodded solemnly, seeking the will of the Lord through the sacred stones. As silence fell over those assembled, the very air thickened with tension. The response came like a whisper on the wind, faint but clear, do not pursue him, for I have chosen him. The voice of God echoed within the recesses of the priest's heart, a truth too pure for Saul's hardened spirit to bear. I in the wilderness, David prepared his band, their resolve stiffening like iron under the fire of purpose. We shall not flee like hunted deer but rise as men of God. He proclaimed, rallying his followers. In their eyes glimmered a shared faith, a deep-seated belief that their leader would remain steadfast amid adversity. And then, into this fragile moment of hope, a shadow emerged, a man from Ziph, one of David's own kin. I have come to warn you, David, he said, his voice low as he moved closer, for the Ziphites have betrayed you to King Saul. They have promised to reveal your hiding places. A chill snaked through David's spine. Betrayal from one's own flesh was a wound deeper than any sword. Lord, is it possible my own have turned against your anointed? He lamented, his heart heavy with the anguish of distrust. Yet amidst this darkening climate, the Lord sent Jonathan, a beacon of light across the troubled desert. As the two met in a secret place, their embraces spoke volumes of their bond. My father is seeking your life, David, Jonathan shared, breathless but faithful. But I have come to strengthen your hand in God, a reminder of his covenant between us. David grasped Jonathan's shoulders, clinging tightly, their bond an unbreakable thread woven by the hand of God. Whatever happens, my friend, we are covenant brothers. Your faith will be my shield, David said, imparting his resolve into Jonathan's heart. But little did they know, the very covenant that bolstered their spirits ignited jealousy and fear within Saul. As he chased the shadows of David, his determination grew more profound, his heart hardened against the very Spirit of God, yet amidst the turmoil, God's plan mounted like the dawn's brilliant light, a plan that would not only reveal enemies but also unveil a glorious epic yet to come. In the stillness of the night, as stars sparkled above their hiding place, David lifted his voice to the heavens. O Lord, expose the wicked and shelter your servant. With every breath, he drew strength from the promise of God's deliverance. As the sun prepared to rise, so too did God's great narrative unfold, a revelation that would present a choice, not only to David and Saul but to an entire nation. What would come of this divine intrigue was yet to be seen, but the echoes of the Almighty began to stir, hinting at a destiny sown through faithfulness and betrayal, a reminder that even in chaos, God's sacred plan was weaving together the hearts of his people. As dawn fully broke over the horizon, illuminating the rugged terrain with hues of gold and crimson, David remained restless. He had sought comfort in the Lord, yet the weight of impending danger flickered like a flame against his spirit. Shall I flee once more, or stand firm? He pondered, gazing at the expanse that lay before him. As he prayed, the winds whispered through the rocks, seeming to assure him of God's presence in the wilderness. Meanwhile, in Gibeah, Saul convened his officials, his temper proving a volatile storm beneath the cold cinder of authority. Assemble the men of war, he roared, and take with you a cohort of the Ziphites. If there is any sign of David, we will pursue him to the ends of the earth. His threat soared, piercing the hearts of those in the room, who trembled at the thought of the king's wrath. Among them stood Doeg the Edomite, his eyes glinting with malice. King, I have seen David on numerous occasions, he taunted, eager to claw deeper into Saul's favor. He hides among the strongholds of the wilderness. I can lead your men to him. The suggestion sparked a fire within Saul, his jealousy fanning the flames of his rage, as he nodded in agreement and directed them forth with haste. Unbeknownst to the tumult of Saul's heart, David and his men sought the Lord in prayer, their spirits intertwined in desperate communion. In the quiet song of the morning, a messenger arrived, bearing news from the very territory that had betrayed David. The Ziphites have disclosed your location to Saul, he breathed, horror on his pallid face. He approaches with a vast army. Heart pounding, David lifted his gaze skyward. Must I always be hunted, O Lord? Deliver me from this peril. In that moment of anguish, he felt the stirrings of the Spirit, urging him to seek out the wisdom of the Lord anew. And so, he turned to the sacred scrolls, poring over the words that spoke of preservation amidst trials. His heart racing with urgency, David called for men of valor. Hear me, brothers. We are besieged from without and betrayed from within. But the God of Israel shall be our refuge and strength. We will not surrender our hope. His words rekindled the fire of bravery within the weary hearts of his followers. Then, as if in promise of divine intervention, Jonathan appeared once more, bearing tidings both of caution and courage. David, he said, breathless yet hope-filled, I have come again this time, to renew our covenant. Fear not what Saul plans, for I shall stand beside you, unyielding, for the Lord is with us. At that very moment, a shadow moved overhead, like a dark cloud casting despair upon their hearts. But David, emboldened in spirit, shouted, The Lord has not forsaken his anointed. Let us move under his banner. Yet Saul's heart remained a fortress of bitterness and envy, his lust for power blinding him to the truth of God's will. As his army advanced into the wilderness, the earth trembled beneath their feet, a stark contrast to the quiet resolve of David's band. Then came the pivotal hour. As the troops encroached upon their position, a strange twist of fate emerged. A flock of goats spun into the midst of Saul's encampment. The men of war, confused and rattled, halted. For in that divine moment of chaos, David and his men slipped away, hidden by the hand of providence. As Saul, consumed by confusion, searched for signs of David, the fleeting shadow of hope hovered above the wilderness. David knelt, believing fiercely that God worked even amid turmoil, whispering, "O Lord, you are my fortress, my refuge. Guide me in this place of trial, for your plan is not yet fulfilled." And thus, as the dust settled, the stage was set for a grand revelation, a time when the hearts of men would be laid bare, and the very tapestry of God's sovereign purpose prepared to unfold intricately, delivering eternal lessons upon the paths of both David and Saul. As the shadows deepened into twilight, David and his men withdrew to the cliffs that formed a natural fortress, their hearts entwined in prayer and purpose. With sporadic rustles of the evening breeze, they gathered in unity, invoking the name of the Lord as their shield against the encroaching darkness. David, ever attuned to the voice of the Almighty, sought the Lord earnestly. "O my God," he cried out, "let not the hand of Saul prevail against your anointed." The air thickened with tension, as if the very elements were poised for divine action. He recalled the words of the prophet Samuel, that he would be king, yet here he was, a fugitive in the wilderness, hunted like a partridge. In his heart, the flame of hope flickered amidst despair, for he understood that God's plans unfold not by human sight but through faith. Meanwhile, Saul, unwavering in his lust for dominion, unleashed his fury. "Dog, lead the way," he commanded, fury etching deep lines upon his brow. "This David shall not escape my grasp. Let my men surround the wilderness and search every crevice. The hour of reckoning approaches." His men, driven by dread of their king's wrath, advanced with the fervor of hunting dogs, eyes sharp for any sign of their quarry. As David contemplated his dire situation, Jonathan, loyal as always, conceived a plan to provide further assistance to his friend. Under cover of night, he crept away from his father's encampment to find David hidden among the rocks. "Fear not, my brother. The Lord has sent me to strengthen you," Jonathan reassured him. "For even amidst the storm, he remains our ally." In a sacred moment of communion, the two embraced, reaffirming their covenant. "I know the promise over your life," Jonathan confided, "and in this trial, may the Lord's will reign. If my father seeks to harm you, may it be known to me, and I shall warn you." David, with his heart full, responded, "May our bonds stand firm as the mountains. The Lord shall be our source of refuge." That very night, as the stars twinkled a divine tapestry above, a dark turn of fate fell upon the Ziphites. Consumed by greed and treachery, they pried into Saul's heart, offering up David's whereabouts, fueling the fire of kingly pride. Saul received their words as honeyed whispers, his heart swelling with malice. "Hear me, O Ziphites!" he exclaimed, "you have done well to seek me. Now let us ensure David suffers the consequence of his defiance." As dawn approached, Saul's forces moved swiftly, drawing closer to David's south hiding place. But in their midst, a dark omen lurked. A fearsome thunderstorm gathered upon the hills, bolstering David's heart with a flicker of hope. Each rumble carried the weight of divine intervention as lightning cast brief glimpses of light across the wilderness. Suddenly, a messenger arrived, breathless and trembling before David. "Saul has come upon you. He encamps just beyond the ridge." In that moment, David felt the weight of desperation threatening to consume him. Yet God's assurance surged in his spirit. He called his men together for one last act of faith. "Listen, brethren. Our trust lies not in swords but in the Lord's deliverance. He will show us the way, as he did when we fled from Goliath. Come, let us ask of him." The men joined in prayer, beseeching heaven for guidance. The storm above raged louder, as if in agreement with their pleas, and then, as though the heavens themselves responded, a fractious wind swept through. "Seek the high ground," David called, inspired by the Spirit. "We must conceal ourselves and wait upon his timing." Thus, as the sun rose, revealing the vast expanse of their surroundings, a bewildering calm settled over the wilderness. With Saul and his men straining to find David yet again, the heavens bore witness to a truth yet unfurled. For in the struggle of faith and the trial of patience, God's sovereign plan would soon break forth in greater revelation, leaving the echoes of destiny lingering in the balance. What unforeseen providence would lead one closer and the other unto ruin? The answer awaited them in the unfolding will of the Almighty. As the sun stretched its golden rays across the morning sky, David beckoned his men to silence, their hearts beating as one with the encroaching storm clouds. With eyes fixed upon the ridge, he discerned the movements of Saul's army below, their banners fluttering like dark omens in the wind. "Brothers," he said with resolve, "the Lord has given us this moment. We shall wait and trust in him." In the high ground, they prepared their hearts through prayer, drawing strength from one another. The sky above crackled with distant thunder, as if the Almighty was stirring from his throne, fully aware of the danger circling around his anointed one. As if by divine arrangement, the storm billowed and unleashed torrents of rain, concealing their movements in a shroud of tempestuous grace. Meanwhile, Saul, blinded by wrath and envy, marched with an arrogant stride, seeking naught but the capture of David. He cried out to his men, "Pursue him to the ends of the earth. May the gods judge you if you fail to bring me his head." His fervor was misguided, a shadow of the greatness that once marked him as leader of Israel. In his desperation to maintain control, he stumbled further from the God whom he once sought with purity. Amidst this pursuit, a glimmer of unexpected revelation blazed forth. As the rain poured down, David's heart caught fire within him. A plan began to form, one bestowed by divine insight. "Let us split into two groups," he urged his men, "and we will use the cover of the storm not merely to evade, but to outwit. One band shall traverse east while the other lingers in the shadows. Let us sow confusion among the ranks of Saul." The men nodded, their eyes alight with hope, stirred by their leader's faith. As they silently dispersed, unseen in the deluge, David remained upon the hill, his gaze lifted heavenward. "O Lord, in whom I trust, grant me wisdom to navigate this peril." Then came a divine whisper upon the wind, unexpected yet profound. "Behold, I am with you, even in this storm." His heart swelled with peace as he recalled the words of his beloved friend Jonathan. "If my father seeks to harm you, may it be known to me perhaps." Amidst the raging tempest, divine signals would emerge, unraveling the enmity that stalked him. During these moments of tension, God chose to display his providence in ways unseen. The Ziphites, ever treacherous, passed word to Saul, seeking to curry favor. But the Lord's hand blurred their vision, causing their whispers to echo incoherently amidst the roar of rain. The voices of traitors, once clear in their betrayal, fell mute before the sovereign decree of the Almighty. In a sudden twist, the ground under Saul's encampment trembled. A flash of divine fury split the skies, as fire and lightning raged above. The rain intensified, and chaos descended upon Saul's ranks. Men stumbled, commands went unheeded. Confusion reigned supreme. At that moment, David realized that the battle belonged not to him, but to the one who fights on behalf of his anointed. Thus, with purpose ignited, David led his men in a climactic descent toward the enemy lines, echoing forth the praises of the God of Israel. "Who can stand against the Lord's chosen?" They shouted, fervently declaring his might in the tumult of the storm, and as the heavens opened wider, a greater mystery beckoned. For in the unfolding of this providence, a prophecy lingered: when the hearts of men align with enmity, the Lord's light shall unveil the hidden foes. What unforeseen alliances would come to light as the storm unveiled the truth? The answer awaited, deeply rooted in God's sovereign plan, yet unrevealed to the human eye. As the storm raged, David and his men moved with great swiftness and purpose, fueled by the cries of the righteous and the power of their God. Each step they took brought them closer to the tumultuous heart of Saul's encampment, where confusion reigned like an unbound tempest. Yet, amidst this chaos, the Lord's presence enveloped them, guiding their every move. David's voice rang out above the clamor, "The Lord is our light and our salvation, whom shall we fear? Though an army besiege me, my heart shall not be afraid." Psalm 27 verse 1. The men rallied behind their leader, emboldened by the faith that flowed through David's song. Not far from this scene, Saul, consumed by fear and driven by his unholy pursuit, sought counsel from his trusted advisers, yet their words were lost, drowned in the turmoil that surrounded them. "What hope remains?" one questioned, his voice quivering. "We are but a few against an unseen foe." Yet the Lord pierced through their despair, and the spirit of confusion grew thicker within Saul's ranks as the rain continued to lash the earth. A shift in the air, a rustle in the brush. Saul perceived danger but could not quantify it. At that instant, one of David's men, Abishai, called to David, "Let us strike down Saul. The Lord has delivered him into your hands." But David, in great wisdom and reverence, raised his hand to stay Abishai. "Do not harm him. For who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed without facing the wrath of God?" 1 Samuel 26 verse 9. In that moment, a stirring among the clouds whispered truth to David's heart, a revelation of grace brewing in the depths of adversity. Saul was fighting against the very man chosen to replace him, yet David held no grudge. "Perhaps this affliction is but a means of teaching us righteousness. We must remain faithful," he declared. As night began to fall, the storm abated, leaving behind a frail calm. David positioned his men with care. With hearts pounding, they peered into the flickering lambent light of Saul's camp, shadows of guards shifting uneasily as their discourse unfolded beneath the vigilant gaze of heaven. An unexpected alliance was formed in the deepening dusk. A scribe loyal to Saul, weary of bloodshed and deception, approached David's encampment under the cloak of night. "I have seen enough," he whispered, trembling as if the very earth beneath bore witness. "I come to warn you. Saul has grown desperate, his heart, darkened by jealousy, seeks not rest but your demise." David listened intently, the fire of divine purpose illuminating his eyes. "You reveal a treachery that cannot go unheeded," he confessed. "What scheme does he concoct against me? It is said that heedless of his men, he plots to send warriors into the mountains, men to hunt you like a wild beast." The scribe shared, glancing nervously toward the camp, a remnant of caution lingering in the shadows. In that tense moment of holy revelation, the night bore witness to a sacred accountability. "I shall not seek vengeance," said David softly, "but trust in you, O Lord, for my deliverance." Psalm 37 verse 5. He prayed fervently, his heart laid bare before God, acknowledging the plight of his enemy, yet firmly resolved in divine justice. With his path illuminated, David knew that veils of deception would be shattered as the cool night air thundered with an ominous promise. Yet far deeper questions intertwined in the fabric of this night, for who among us is hidden? The scribe's revelations echoed. What other enemies do we harbor within our hearts? David pondered. In the depths of trust and betrayal, who is truly sharp in spirit to discern the hidden adversaries beneath our own roofs? As these thoughts turned over in David's mind, the promise of greater deliverance loomed close, a truth that would soon unfold, as God's sovereign plan promised not only deliverance, but a deeper communion with his people. What would the heavens reveal as the divine light pierced through darkness? As the dawn broke once again over the wilderness, a palpable tension infused the air. David stood firm, his heart still echoing the words of prayer and covenant, knowing that the hour demanded trust in the Lord's unfailing providence. With the flickering embers of last night's vigil still glowing, he gathered his men around him. "Brothers," he spoke with zealous conviction, "we face not just a king driven mad by envy, but the very shadows of treachery that seek to envelop our cause. Yet, we stand fortified by the promises of Yahweh." In the distance, Saul's encampment lay in uneasy quietude, still suspecting victory in the pursuit of David. To his right, avarice-spurred warriors lingered, eager to grasp the bounty of a favored king, while in their midst, the dark clouds of calamity gathered, a divine portent awaited. "Prepare yourselves," David directed, "the hand of God shall guide us. This is not our battle, but his, and he shall manifest the justice that is righteous." The fervor of his words became a flame that ignited their spirits, binding them in shared determination. Together, they sought counsel in prayer, beseeching the Almighty to reveal his path. As they stealthily approached the heart of the enemy's camp, a heavenly whisper fell upon David, lighting his soul. "Fear not, my chosen, I have not abandoned you." He echoed these words, believing in the Lord's sovereign decree. Saul, meanwhile, shuffled through a haze of brewing insanity, ever fixated on David's demise. "Keep searching." He commanded his men, frenzied breaths escaping his lips as he grasped at wisps of waning control. Unbeknownst to him, a divine curtain was being drawn, revealing both the futility of his rage and the grace of God's sovereign plan. That in a moment of faith, David, emboldened yet cautious, crept closer to Saul's quarters. With glowing resolve, he whispered to Abishai, "Come with me to the king's very tent. You see, it is our choice to extend grace even in this hour. Who can lay a hand upon the Lord's anointed?" As darkness swelled around them, they slipped quietly into the heart of the encampment, where Saul lay asleep, a sword lodged in the earth nearby. David's heart raced as he considered the weapon that had wrought so much anguish. Yet, knowing the depths of envy within Saul's heart did not grant him the right to extinguish life. "Look!" he urged, gesturing to Abishai. "The Lord has delivered your enemy into your hands. Now is the time to strike." Yet, David's heart stilled, weighed down by a righteousness far greater than revenge. "Nay, let us not harm him. For he is still the king, anointed by God. His fate lies with the Almighty," he declared, soft yet firm. The Holy Spirit blazed within him. This act of mercy would resonate through the ages as a testimony of God's greater purpose. Instead of bloodshed, David took the spear and the jar of water that lay next to Saul, severing the chain of turmoil. "Let us go," he whispered, stepping back into the shadows. They retreated to the edge of the camp, hearts racing with the gravity of their democracy against bitter conflict. Once safely a distance away, David called out into the night, his voice echoing against the hills. "Saul! Why do you pursue me as if I were a mere flea? I have spared you." The words pierced through the silence like prophetic arrows, drawing the attention of the king, who roused in confusion. "Is that your voice, David?" Saul replied, alarm giving way to recognition. "You come to taunt me?" Yet in David's heart churned a potent mixture of sorrow and hope. He desired reconciliation beyond the strife that had divided them. "Yes," David answered, "I have chosen mercy. I could have ended this bitter pursuit, yet I spared you, for the Lord's anointed serves him first. I owe you my loyalty, not my strife." Before all those gathered, he displayed the spear and water. "I possess your own token, proof that my heart desires peace over conflict." His voice rang with truth and sincerity, resonating even through the clouded darkness of Saul's mind. Saul, shaken and unraveling in the tumult, fell to his knees, eyes brimming with shame and vulnerability. "Is that you, my son David? I see the folly of my ways, I have erred against you. You are more righteous than I." And so in that moment, the walls created by envy began to crack, the scales that had blinded Saul lifted, if only for an instant, leading him to grasp the reality of grace, the very essence of God's merciful sovereignty. "I shall no longer seek to harm you," he murmured, the weight of his ceaseless hostility fading as humility took root. "May the Lord make a covenant between us," David replied softly, heart open to reconciliation yet firm in his resolve. "Let the past fall as dust beneath our feet, and may our paths henceforth rise toward the throne of grace." In the quiet aftermath, surrounded by countless witnesses, God's abundant grace surged, healing wounds once thought irreparable. Thus, David returned to the wilderness, fortified by this unexpected fellowship, understanding his trials had crafted a deeper bond not only with Jonathan, but with Saul as well, a testament to God's enduring faithfulness amidst the chaos of human strife. Now, dear friends, as you reflect upon this powerful tale of mercy, betrayal, and divine deliverance, I urge you, subscribe immediately to stay closely connected with God's Word and the miraculous stories of His guidance. Leave a like now to enable more souls to discover and spread God's truth through their lives. Comment below your insights and how this divine resolution has inspired your faith journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear about God's unwavering hope. Today is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. True believers understand the importance of uniting voices, so let us join together in honoring God and reaching more hearts for Christ.